So, I heard you wanted to move to Paris. You're gonna need a notebook, a pencil, a pen. You could use your laptop. You just need something to take notes because this information, very, very important. Also, this is my look for today. I feel like it just fits the mood for today's video. A lot of tea is going to be spilled. Should we brew some tea? I think we should. I got my tea and I'm ready to spill. I'm just kidding. Basically, today's video is going to be an overview of how I got to Paris. If you're wondering how you can move to Paris, I'm going to share my experience and then also some more information on different ways that you can finesse your way into France, because it is a process and it's almost like they don't want me here, but I don't care. I have notes. I should get my notes. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to go over, we need to talk about reasons. If you're telling other people, oh, I'm moving to France, the first question they're gonna ask is why? And then the second one is how? So for the first part of this video, we're gonna talk about why exactly I moved, and then also cover some reasons that you might want to be moving and some reasons you should not move. So the reason that I ended up moving was, if I'm being completely honest, because I wanted to. I wasn't very happy. That's like a whole nother story that we can get into. I just graduated this year. I finished my degree in 2 years. I loved college, it was really fun, but I was not happy, like, at all. And when I heard about this program, I was like, cool, I get to live in France for a year? Hell yeah, let's do it. So that's the reason why I moved, and maybe you're in a similar situation where you're just like, I don't like it here, I don't like where I'm living, and I think France would be better for me, I kind of want to try it out. Then that's definitely a good reason to move. And I think a reason you should not move, this is similar to when people are going to colleges, never move because of romance. Don't do it, because if things don't work out, then you're not gonna have a reason to stay. Don't move because one day you're just like wine drunk and you're like, living in Paris would be so much fun. That's also not a good reason, because as soon as you sober up and you start the process, you're gonna cry and it's just gonna be horrible. So make sure that you have strong convictions, make sure you have a really good reason to move, and that it's for yourself, because it's hard. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, it was hard just getting here, but trying to stay here, finding an apartment, trying to get all my, like, a bank account and all that kind of stuff, it's difficult, and there's just so many, it's just a lot. Step number one, a good reason. Step number two is how you're going to do it, because once people ask you why you're moving and you're like, well, I want to, and they're gonna be like, but how are you gonna do it? You're broke, you're this, that, whatever. Don't listen to them. You have strong convictions for moving to Paris, for moving to France, for moving to, I don't know, Spain, China, even a different apartment. Like, if you yourself feel like this is the good move for you, this is you moving in the right direction, do not listen to what other people tell you. As long as you have planned it out and you have taken all the advice I'm going to give you, then don't listen to what other people say, because they have not done the research. Like, I'm a Virgo and I would never do something without planning, without going through all the steps. I knew why I was moving here and I knew how I was going to do it, so I wasn't gonna let other people tell me what I can and cannot do. So now we have to get into the actual nitty-gritty, the actual meat and potatoes, or the tofu and potatoes of this video. How, Amy, how did you move to Paris? Like, what the, in the middle of a pandemic? Like, why? So basically what I'm doing is a program called TAPIF, and it stands for Teaching Assistant in France. Simplified version of what I do is basically I'm an English assistant, so I help out with the English classes. I will have small group conversations, sometimes I'll have presentations for the whole class, and I've led a couple classes too. So it depends on the day and it depends on the teacher, but I'm basically just a little assistant. The program I'm doing is called TAPIF, and I'll have it linked down below so you guys can apply. Applications are actually open, and I believe they close in January, so hurry up, apply. Definitely recommend this. Such a great program. I only work 12 hours a week. I don't make a lot though. I make technically $15 an hour because I only work 12 hours a week, I make like $950 or $980 a month, and it's 790 euros. So it's not a lot, especially for Paris, it's not a lot, but it's a good job and I really enjoy it, and it got me to Paris. I'm not gonna go super in-depth into the application process for the program. That can be its whole separate video, but I'm going to tell you guys basically what I had to do in order to legally move here to France. So if you're staying in France or whatever country you're moving to for over 6 months, then you have to get a visa, and the visa process, I tell you, was so difficult, mostly because of COVID, but in general, like, I just was so stressed throughout the whole thing. But to get a visa, you basically have to make an appointment with this organization called VFS, and you basically make an appointment with them. You show up with all of your documentation, so many different pieces of document that you need. You show up with your passport, your application, some of the random things that you needed to show up with. But once you get to your appointment, they just ask you random questions. They take your biometrics, like you need to get a fingerprint scan thingy, and then they take your picture, and that's gonna be the picture on your visa. I did the whole VFS application process thing. It was a whole nightmare. I spent over $1,000 on it, mostly because of COVID, but I'm still crying over how much money I spent to get my visa. But yeah, after I did the whole application process, literally 2 weeks, not even a week later, I get my visa, and I'm like, hell yeah, I can move to France. And my visa was actually validated on September 30th, so I could have technically moved on the 30th, but because of COVID, I wasn't able to move here until October 30th, so I've been here for about a month and a half. That was the whole visa process, and you do need a visa if you're staying for, I believe, over 3 months. Once you got your visa, obviously you need a transportation system. I ended up booking my flight with United only because I was kind of running low on cash. I don't know what the thing is called, but it's basically where you can get your flight, but you pay it over a couple of months instead of paying it all at once, and it's cost me $70 to do this, but I wanted to have a lot of money in my bank account for when I moved, so that I wouldn't have to worry about money. So that's why I ended up doing that, and I thought the $70 was worth it in that case. But yeah, I definitely recommend saving a lot before you move so that you don't have to struggle. It can help you with like your first month of like getting your housing, looking for housing, opening up a bank account, and blah blah blah, just a lot of things that you have to pay for. So then once I had my visa, obviously, and I had my plane ticket, and I had my money saved up, obviously that's when I ended up getting on my flight and moving to France. It was a whole experience. On the day that I moved to France, I missed my first flight from Sioux Falls to Minneapolis, so I had to drive from Sioux Falls to Minneapolis, and then I missed the flight from Minneapolis to New York. So then I had to get a different flight that was going from Minneapolis to Chicago, then Chicago to Germany, and then Germany to Paris. So it was like, literally it took me like 2 days to get to Paris when it should have been 1 day. Like, after the whole process, all the tears and all the stress, I finally arrived in Paris right when quarantine started. Zero luck. I've had so many bad things happen to me. It's like someone doesn't want me to come here. I arrived on the 30th, I believed, and I arrived at first into a hotel, and then the next day I went to my apartment that I was staying at for the first month. In that first month, I had to do a lot of administration things, and I also had to find permanent housing, which is where I am right now. Apartment tour is up. Oh my god, I always forget which side is this. I think it's this side. But yeah, I have an apartment tour up so you guys can see that. The first month I was just staying in temporary housing, which makes it very hard to do a lot of things. Number one, open a bank account. Yeah, basically I couldn't get a bank account, so I ended up just getting one through N26, which is an online bank account. I also had to get a cell phone plan, so I just went to the free store and I was like, what's your cheapest cell phone plan? And I bought it. And what else did I do my first month? I'm just tearing up just thinking about it, but when I tell you it's hard to find an apartment in Paris, it is difficult. Like, I don't know, like, how is not everybody in Paris homeless? Like, it's crazy. Like, the housing market moves so fast. Like, I found an apartment, but I didn't have the paperwork for it. Like, my paperwork wasn't ready, so then he gave it to someone else. And then there was another situation where I was supposed to get the apartment, but literally like the day that I was supposed to go sign for the apartment, he was like, just kidding, I went with someone else. And I was like, you couldn't have told me that, so that I hadn't spent all weekend excited that I found a place. Like, it was just a whole lot. But eventually I found this apartment. The apartment that I'm living in right now is in the 16th arrondissement. I pay 540 euros per month, which is a lot for how much I make, but it's a roof over my head, so that's all we care about. That's all we care about. Funny story, I'm paying less to live in this apartment than I did in my freshman dorm of college. When I tell you university in America is a scam, it is a scam. Like, how? I don't get it. This is my second month, and some of the things that I've had to do / I'm still trying to get done is, number one, I applied for healthcare. It was so confusing, but eventually I figured out. The other thing that I'm still working on applying for is called CAF. I don't know what it stands for, but it's basically like housing assistant for poor people. me. Still working on applying for that, because before I can do that I have to validate my visa, and that's gonna cost another $200. So I'm waiting for my paycheck so that I can validate my visa so that I can apply for CAP. Like, you see how you have to do so many things just like to get from point C. You have to go to Z, W, X, Y, and then like it's just so much going on. And then something I forgot to talk about is the metro. When I tell you guys I'm in love with the Paris metro system, she is beautiful. I think it's definitely worth it to get the Paris metro pass. It's called a Navigo pass. $75 per month, and you can use it whenever, however. It's just super easy, and I definitely recommend it, especially if you're a student or you work every day and you obviously use it twice a day to go to work. For the final section of this video, I'm going to be giving you guys advice, my tips and tricks for moving abroad, for moving to France, or even more specifically moving to Paris, and some of the mistakes you can avoid that I made. And I'm going to try to keep this short because this video, I've already been talking for almost half an hour, and I really do not want this video to be super long. But if you guys have any other questions, I really want to do a Paris Q&A so that I can answer you guys' questions. So if you ever have any questions, definitely DM me on Instagram, or you can just leave me in the comments and I'm going to answer your questions to the best of my ability. So number one, save up as much money as you can possibly muster. Like, this is so important, you guys, and this is something that I wish I would have done differently. So like I told you guys, I was kind of short on cash, mostly because I had a lot of unexpected expenses, i.e. having to travel to Chicago and then come back and then travel to Houston to get my visa. Like, that just drained me in terms of cash. So definitely save up as much as you can, just because something like that could happen to you and then now you're in the red and you don't have enough money and you have to move back. Like, that could be horrible. So make sure you save up enough money to get you through a couple of months. Save up enough money for any emergencies, things that could go wrong that you didn't see coming. Save up as much as you can, and you can literally do so many things for this. Babysitting, Uber, deliveries. There's a lot of jobs that you can get that aren't super formal, where you can just kind of do it in your off time and all that. Make sure you save up as much as you can. And then the other tip that I really should have done is open a separate bank account and call it like France or like moving money, so that you don't touch that money. Because what I did is I just kept my money in my same bank account, so I would just keep spending it, and then eventually there was like nothing in there and I was like, I needed that money. So make sure you have a separate bank account that you put all of your moving money into, so that you don't touch it and you don't feel more rich than you actually are. The next one has to do with how you move. Obviously I only moved here the way I moved here, like I can't speak for other people, but from what I've heard, the easiest way to move to France, especially if you want to do it permanently, is to just be a student and study here, because they just are nicer to you basically. So when you're looking for housing, especially like if you're a student, they treat you like a princess, and it's just a lot easier to like open a bank account and do a lot of administrative things if you can just prove that you're a student, and that's why you're not established. Otherwise, like, they really want you to sign over your firstborn just to open a bank account. Like, it's crazy. So if you really want to move here permanently, I recommend just doing studies here. If you haven't gone to college yet, then just come study here and you can just find a job here. It'll be so much easier than studying in the United States and then trying to transfer over once you already have established your roots. Just move here and study if you really want to move here permanently. But also, education in Europe is so cheap, you guys. Like even international rates cannot compare to the US school. Like, crazy. The second way, which is the way I do it, is to find a job, and there's a couple different ways that you can do this. Okay, so I think the hardest way is to have like an actual company sponsor you. So this can be like an international company or some other company that really wants you to work for them, so then they sponsor your visa. And I think this is just hard because nobody wants to do that, like especially here in France. An easier way is to do different programs that can get your foot into the door. What I did is this program, obviously called TAPIF, but there's other programs that you can do to come here and work. Like I said, I did a program called TAPIF where I'm teaching, but if you don't want to do that, you can be a nanny, you can be an au pair, which is very popular, especially if you're younger, like if you're my age, like 21, especially if you speak English and French, like that's very popular. But yeah, there's definitely different ways where you can start out with the job, start out as an au pair, and then eventually just kind of slide yourself into the French DMs. Like, you just like show up and France is like, who are you? And you're like, I'm here for a job, and then eventually you're just permanently here. Like, there's ways it can be done. The third thing I want to talk about is housing. Like I said, I'm not going to get into my specific housing apartment hunt because it was wild and there's just a lot going on and it needs to be its own video. But basically, if you're moving to Paris, get ready to cry. Like literally get a cup and you're gonna fill them with tears when you're apartment hunting. I believe it took me 3 weeks to find my apartment. Basically, some things that make it hard when apartment hunting in Paris, and I fall under all of these. Number 1, not being French. It makes it so hard because you need to get a French guarantor, which is basically someone who guarantees that you're gonna pay your rent, and there's different websites that you can use, and that's the reason I lost my first apartment that I found, because that wasn't already, because French administration once again is horrible. Number 2, being broke. This, I believe, like, is a bigger factor, but not having a lot of money makes it so hard because they literally want you to be Beyonce level rich. I live in what's called a chambre de bon, and it's basically a room. A chambre de bon is the cheapest housing you can find in Paris. Mine is actually on the 1st floor. Usually they're on like the top floor and you get the beautiful view of Paris, but you also get 7 flights of stairs to go up every single morning. The other things that you can do for housing, if you just don't have a lot of money, you can do a colocal, I can never pronounce the French version of this, but you can get a roommate, and this just makes it really easy, especially if you're not going to be here long term. But I personally did not want a roommate. And then you can also live outside of Paris. So because it's so hard to find an apartment in Paris and it takes so long, make sure that you have housing. You can stay with a friend or something. Just find a way, have a way to be living before you find your place, because you don't know how long it'll take. Okay, administration. Okay, so I just wanted to say a couple things about administration. Be patient, like it takes a while, it's very complicated. You'll get different answers for things. Like I know when I was trying to open a bank account, I would call them and then they tell me one thing, and then I call a different bank account and they would tell me something different. And when I was looking for housing, it was the same thing. It's one of those things where I feel like they just say whatever they can to get you off the phone, and I'm just like, and I also got hung up on once. That was really fun. Also, when it comes to admin, have all of your paperwork ready, have all of it in a document where it's nice and organized, and also on your computer have a folder with all of the documentation, because then when you're applying for things and they're like, we need your visa, this, it's just all in one folder and you can just drag and drop. And also have copies of everything. Very important to have copies. I think that's everything I wanted to touch on today's video. I really hope it wasn't too all over the place. I just had so much to talk about, and I just have so much to share about this experience, and I have a lot like coming in the future, obviously, that I want to share with you guys, because I really hope my channel can be an inspiration to anyone who wants to move. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to move here is because I wanted to actually become fluent in French, parce que mon français n'est pas très bien, et je pense que no, I can't. What am I trying to say? Je souhaite que quand j'habite en France pour 7 mois, je peux améliorer mon français. I really want to become fluent by the time I leave here. I definitely really love it here, and I hope you guys the best. And if you have any questions ever, comment them down below. Like this video so more people can see it and be inspired to make the big move. When I'm telling you, if I was able to do it, you can too. I'm like, literally, whoever is watching this video, if you want to move to France and you are ready to put in the work and effort, you are going to be able to do it. Leave your comments, any questions, comments, concerns in the comments section, and I will help you guys out. And you can also DM me on Instagram and we can get a conversation going, because I really want to be as helpful as possible. So if you send me a DM on Instagram, then obviously I can be more personalized, and you can give me like your own personal story if you want specific help. So yeah, but that was it for today's video. I need to stop talking because this video is gonna be forever. That was it, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.